My pal John Kalia comments now and again on these posts, and he recently declared me to be a far-left liberal. Not so, I protested, and proceeded to show him a bunch of my views on issues about which the vast majority of Americans agree. For example, we want sensible gun safety legislation. We want big money out of our politics. The wealthy should pay their fair share, and it's more than they're paying now. We oppose privatization of Social Security. The earth is warming at a dramatic pace, and humans are a key driver of that. We need a climate moonshot if we're to be able to live in what are now our coastal cities. Russia is not our friend, and we must take action to protect our democracy. Stop lying to us about trickle-down economics. We've seen this movie over and over for 40 years, and we know how it ends. And it's not well for almost all of us. Instead of the same old stupid stuff, do something that actually helps the lower 99%. Like, pass an infrastructure bill to rebuild America. No more unnecessary wars, and stop the ones we're in. There's lots more, but my notions seem to coincide with Midland views, methinks. John challenged me to take the quiz on the Pew Research site, so I did. Lo and behold, they say I'm a solid liberal along with 15% of the American public. That's far left, not centrist. I could look for a second opinion, but that feels more like a desperate attempt to prove I'm right, rather than just accepting reality. My pal Ozzy sensibly instructs, reality always wins. Our job is to get in touch with it. Inconvenient, perhaps, but he's right. Annoyingly, there is a lot about our current reality that plagues us, and we better get in touch with it. You know about the reality of the Trump craziness that pits Americans against one another and focuses on outrage and petty victimization while creating roadblocks to accomplishing anything to deal with our vexing problems. At the same time, though, Trump enjoys huge support from ordinary Americans, irrespective of his terrible job performance rating. That's down to 36.9%. That support leads to congressional spinelessness, Senators McCain, Corker, and Flake notwithstanding. Indeed, the legislators in Congress who live in scandalously gerrymandered districts keep getting reelected in spite of our disdain for Congress, now with just a 13% approval rating. They don't fear a challenge from the other party, but are terrified at being primaried from the right by an angry extremist candidate. That's because we're living in the era of extended middle finger America. Indeed, as Victor Davis Hanson wrote in the National Review, quote, Trump is a symptom of widespread disgust. What created him was furor at a smug, entrenched Republican political establishment, close quotes. Arguably, this anger at the establishment began a long time ago with the assassination of President Kennedy and the Warren Commission's apparent whitewash of an investigation. It was abetted by the lies of Lyndon Johnson about the war in Vietnam, and the lies and crimes of Richard Nixon, and the resignation over corruption charges of his vice president. It surely was helped along by Bill Clinton's, let's call them dalliances. Our anger was nurtured by Ronald Reagan, who told us that the 9 most feared words in America are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. He told us that, quote, government is the problem, close quotes. He repeatedly encouraged us to be angry at our government. Actually, we had some solid reasons to be angry. For example, when the I-35 West Bridge collapsed in Minneapolis, we were delivered a very clear heads up that we have infrastructure problems. Yet precious little has been done in the intervening 10 years to protect the American people and ensure our solid presence in the world. In contrast, former third world countries are modernizing at a ferocious pace, leaving us less than competitive in this global economy. That's a huge trust killer for us, just as our refusal to fix our education system and governmental infighting to prevent poor people from receiving good health care undercut our belief in our systems. Gasoline was poured on the flames of anger at government by Newt Gingrich's madness in rapidly attacking Bill Clinton on everything and shutting down the government. Then George W. Bush and Dick Cheney lied us into 2 unnecessary wars. It was worsened by John Boehner, telling us that it was all about jobs, 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 and yet opposing every attempt to create legislation that would encourage job growth. The Furies were angered still further by a Republican Congress that was solely focused on ensuring that Obama had no wins, instead of looking out for the American people. The worst thing, though, is the ongoing drumbeat of how awful our government is, the blatant lies by legislators, and the polarized commentary by the likes of Breitbart, Rush Limbaugh, and Alex Jones. That has led to a very angry citizenry, and that has led to the election of a president who is incrementally tearing down the very things that make this country work. Somehow his supporters, otherwise good solid folks, are so angry that they're willing to ignore Trump's awfuls. They have and continue to be prepared to elect representatives and senators who spew vitriol. All that is looking backward. What will we do about it? I don't have the answers, but I'm confident that what is called for is inspired and inspiring leadership in a new direction. We need a Lincoln to call upon our better angels. And we need insightful ideas that are offered in inspiring ways. Who will do that? It's self-defeating to live in, quote, the sublime relief of deferred responsibility, the soft violence of willful ignorance, close quotes, as phrased by Lindy West in a marvelous piece in the New York Times. Her reference was to the normalization of the hate of the alt-right, but that phrase works well for all of our current reality. Back to my friend Ozzy. The companion piece to Reality Always Wins is this: if you want to know the future, create it. What is the future reality you want? The time to start creating it is now. I'm Jack Altshuler.